Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Harebrained Games. Today we're going to do a review of a game called The Mission. It's published by White Dog Games. The author is R. Ben Madison. The Mission is a one-to-one player game which recreates the first 1,500 years of Christendom. It is a delight. I did an unboxing of it, and you'll notice it's very compact, very well organized. But enough of me. Let's take a look at what's inside The Mission. Okay, now before we begin playing turn 1, let's review how you win. Your singular role in the mission is to spread the gospel and win over the populace to Christianity. Along the way, you're going to be inhibited by hordes, by Islam later in the game, tyrants. Sometimes Rome will help you, sometimes less so. After 27 turns, you come to the cusp of the First Crusade. How well you accomplish the spreading of the gospel in the previous turns and the staving off of disruptive and heretical forces will determine the outcome of the game and the score that you will achieve for your efforts. Now, over the course of the game, players experience incredible changes. Some are localized and others are relatively large upheavals that you can't control, but you might be able to leverage or at least minimize the adverse effects of. Now, everything starts in Jerusalem. Seems wise. The Apostles and James the Just are here. We set up some initial tokens to represent the time shortly after the crucifixion and resurrection of Christ. Nearby are known Jewish lands. You can see them noted here. But beyond them lies lands that haven't been discovered yet, insofar as their receptivity towards the message. And over time, you're going to see a lot of introduction of new elements and various changes. But in the beginning, well, we can keep it simple. One thing to note, and I've said this in the unboxing, but I'll say again, is that everything is included in the box except for 2 dice. You're going to need 2 6-sided dice. Now, I'm a weirdo, and I decided, if I'm going to find dice, I have 2,000 games. I could find dice, but instead, I'm going to use my friend Bob Ross here. I like to do this sometimes. Ace through 6, that's 1 dice. Ace through 6, the other dice. Because, who doesn't want to just not have any pressure and relax and watch it happen? So, Bob, you're going to be my destiny deck here for the mission. So one final thing is, while most of the board is set up generally statically, there are 2 types of tiles that are going to be set randomly. The Cult of Isis is going to show up somewhere in the game. So we would flip 1, 4. 1, 4. So we're going to take track 1, and I will shuffle these puppies up. Shuffle these puppies up, and we're going to go track 1 here. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. Don't worry about that track. It's got different rules. Now the Cult of Isis is there. And then again, we're going to continue to do that. We're going to take, hey, no pressure. Just relax and watch this happen. 4, 3. We're going to find track 4. And we're going to go 1, 2, 3 spaces on that track. And we're going to do the same thing with the heresy tiles. Heresy tiles are little outcroppings of heretical annoyance, and sometimes they grow larger than a simple annoyance. That's it. That's what we got going on now. We're going to get right into turn 1. Okay, our first roll is to spread out from Jerusalem phase. Now we're going to go through the sequence in order. It's each turn you're going to follow these steps. Now it might look a little bit daunting, but understand that for the most part there is a subset of these points that are actually going to ever be active on any turn. So this is kind of an amalgamation of what anything could happen on a turn. The first history phase, not much is going to happen. You'll notice here it's kind of very simple. Jesus is resurrected, Paul's letters, missions to Syria, Greece, Rome, Jerusalem, council. So it's going to keep it light. So that's our first phase. In the 27 turns, every turn might have a different set of events that are going to occur, different heresies that are going to be at least activated. They might not be placed on the map yet, but they might be activated. Heresies form, theologians arrive on the scene that can aid you, councils form that have varying results, and the Roman army, ever the opportunist can move about the Roman areas. So our history here is, well, there's not much to it. We checked, there's no new era. We didn't need to hide a heresy tile, no great theologian, a communic council. I'm not going to move the Roman army. I'm going to leave him over here, headed towards West Africa. Then we're going to go to the secular phase. This is where we draw a random wafer. Wait for it. Wait for it. Okay, and that's what we have. This is a wafer tile. We place it. Well, we know that that's 4. We're going to get 4 coins. That's going to be our monetary inflow. And then we're going to place it over here in the active wafer, because it's going to be away for a while. All right, it gives information on the secular world activity that's going to transpire in the years that our turn represents. We'll begin by giving ourselves the 4 coins in that fountain. And then we look and see, is there a Roman policy change? Nope, there wasn't one on this time. Is there heresy? Then place it. And yes, there is heresy. Now we're going to secretly move into here. The reality is that the first 3 heresy tiles are very well known. They're the Ebonite heresy, and they're going to go, they have a special rule. Normally you would randomly place these, but the special rule for Ebonites is they go nearby. And that's really the whole activity that you're going to get for turn 1 of the secular phase. The other activities we don't need to worry about. Over time there will be a lot more meat to the secular phase, especially in the later rounds, but in the meantime, there we go. Then we get to, well, now we can remove the wafer. Goodbye. Now we get to the meat of the player's input. We can finally do things to spread the mission. There are 17 things that you can do on your turn, and it can look overwhelming, but in reality, again, most of the phases have a general focus that makes a subset of those actions more of interest than the others. For instance, early on, you're going to probably focus on the core actions of moving your apostles, discovering lands, and converting lands, because this is critically important. We're going to start with James the Just. He's a special character. He can use as many times as he wants. He can try to convert any of the Jews around Jerusalem. That's his special gift. He goes until he fails. When he fails, he's flipped over and becomes a relic, aka he's been martyred. And the relics will come into play later, but for now they're relegated to history. All right, so we're going to start, and we're going to go ahead and start converting here. So, James, I would like you, if James can end heresies, to end a heresy, he has to roll a 5 or greater. He has to roll a number greater than that number, but apostles, bishops, archbishops, and popes have an ability where they add +1 to the die for every single one of them that's in a space. Now, we're not going to worry about, like, this is, yeah, James the Just is going to go here, and actually we're going to have him start over here. We're going to have him start to the Jews of Antioch. So he needs to roll. We're going to do a special, what do you say, Bob? What's the number? It is 5. It worked. Yay, he has converted the Jews. Well, the other thing is, there we go. Yay, that worked. And he's going to go again. So we're going to shuffle again. And we're going to try and have him convert the Jews here in Persia. He has to roll at least a 4. He does. That worked. Awesome. Awesome. All right, and finally, he's going to try and beat the heresy here first, because nothing happens until he can beat the heresy. And 1. Darn it. It didn't work out. So, all right, so that didn't work. James the Just is now martyred. Now we can move out. Now, here's the thing. The apostles, on the other hand, they have a different journey. They can move for free, but you have to take that risk and roll the dice. If they have to roll greater than the distance from Jerusalem they are, or you can pay a coin for the comfort of knowing that they don't have to make that roll. We're going to start with track A. Each apostle goes on a different track towards A. So let's do that. We're going to go A. We're going to go right over here. We're going to go ahead and pay the cost for that. That's pretty cool. Once you move to a place that doesn't have a field tile, you grab a field tile. And there we go. We're going to, that's a field tile. Scholars. Scholars are here. This is where scholars are. This is going to add some points. You know, the higher the number to convert, this is the number you have to... What am I doing? I don't have to do that. They're already there. The Jews are there. Never mind. So, if there wasn't a tile, and we're going to go that next, we'll do this again. So we're going to move over here. We're going to take a risk, though. He's now 2 away. 1, 2. So it has to be 3 or greater, and it's 2. So he is martyred. And again, we should have done this first, but we're going to move the scholars here. There we go. So he's here. He's a relic, and we bring in the bishop here. Now, the bishop can act just like an apostle. Again, they can only move out. They can't move back towards Jerusalem, but he's going to pick up the cross effectively and keep moving out and trying to expand out on this pathway to the different lands and convert them. And we do the same thing with Paul, we do the same thing with Barnabas, we do the same thing with Thomas. They're spreading out, and they're spreading the gospel along these different paths. Again, if it's heresy tile, you have to confront the heresy before you can try and convert those in the land. And again, let's do that. Let's do one more. Let's do Paul. Paul is on the track of B, not a surprise. He's going to go here. He's going to discover slaves. That's fitting. Slaves are pretty easy to convert. Worth less points at the end, but still the current. But we didn't use any money, so we're going to go ahead and roll the Bob Ross die, and oh, we're fine. We're fine. So yay, look at that. And the more we convert, the more money we're going to get, because we can get extra money if we have at least 3 green tiles and a pope on a path when it's time for the money roll. So from here, Paul could continue on. Note that at the end of the apostolic era, all of the apostles are going to be martyred. So you want to spread out. You probably want to push your luck a little bit more than you might otherwise, knowing that eventually they are going to be martyred, because that is going to usher in the next era. So that's it. So say that we're let's assume that we were close to being done with our turn then, and the last part that you would always go in your turn is the end of turn phase. The Dark Ages collapse. There are ways that the Dark Age track can move forward. If it ever gets to 7, you lose. Other than that, the rest of it's pretty much clean up. Persians, they're kind of in their own little section of the world there, and you check their religious state, particularly later on when Islam rises. You check apostasy. If there's any green tiles with apostasy heresies, then you have to either pay up money or, well, yeah, that's what you have to do, or else they convert over. And finally, you reset. So we didn't talk about Pax Romana, but how Rome perceives you is of very big importance here. There are a lot of things to go on. You'll notice that there are certain tiles called control tiles, and as the control tiles are moving on, they get it kind of defines the empire, the Roman Empire in this. And at first you don't see it, but then you put the tiles on and you're like, oh, I get it. Now this section here is Roman, and that's a big impact later. Again, and I would reiterate that this is, while turn 1 is not quite as exciting as it might first appear, although it is to me, because it is kind of the exciting first foray when you're heading out. I liked it, but there's still so much to explore in the mission that I haven't even begun to tap. Over time, Rome's power is going to wane, its tolerance is going to rise and fall. Hordes are going to be beginning to approach, and they're going to come in and squeeze in from outside in. Islam's going to rise in Jerusalem. It's going to squeeze from the inside out. You really are sandwiched in this sort of tight bidirectional tower defense game that's going on. Someone, maybe me, but I'm not very good at it, should do a playthrough of this game. It will take several hours, but it will be so valuable. I in the future maybe, but right now I wanted to at least kind of give people who might be interested in the topic, some of my Christian fellow brothers and sisters might be of interest as well. At least hopefully you get kind of an idea of what you're going to be experiencing and the type of breadth and scope of the mission, in contrast to other Christian games as well, and as other regular board games as well. So with that, let's get to my final thoughts. Okay, as with all reviews, we go over the cons, then the pros, then my final thoughts. Let's go over the cons. And this is more just a con for those, if you have an expectation that this is a top-of-the-line, cool mini or not, Final Fantasy games production level affair with minis and big maps and streamlined stuff. If you're expecting these things, they will not meet your goals. Just FYI. Not a games problem. Basically just if you're expecting that, don't think you are, but for some of us that have gotten a little accustomed to it, this is not that affair. It's different. The manual is well organized. It's well constructed. I actually think that my mind works in a way that I think that I'm going to create some cheat sheets, like where every turn I just lay out the steps for that turn without so much lookup and stuff. I think that will make it quicker for me. Others obviously probably won't need it, but I like to streamline things where I can. Details, details, details. There are lots of details in this game. For those immersed in, say, wargaming and simulation kind of affairs, this is not going to be a problem. It's actually on the lower end of complexity in that regard, I think. But if it's the premise that intrigues you, or you like the idea of it, but you haven't really delved in games past, say, lighthearted casual fare, take some time. There will be a time investment required to really ramp up on what you're doing. The other thing, surprisingly, dice not included, as I mentioned. I don't care about that. Like I said, I have a couple thousand games. I'll find dice. I was very surprised by people who just did not like that and resisted it from a principle perspective, of the principle. I don't know, can't help you on it. And it's, it just is. It's not a big deal. Speaking of resistance, there are some of my friends that I talked about with this, and I was kind of showing them once I got the package and stuff. I have friends of all different persuasions and all different worldview ideas, and some of them absolutely will not touch this with a 10-foot pole. It was a similar reaction to a game I had from a designer friend of mine who was doing the first year of the Trump presidency, but because it had Trump anywhere in it, it was just not. The market was not receptive, which is a shame because it's one of the better games I've played in years. But can't help you. You know who you are. You're probably not interested. You might not even watch this video. So for those of you, I'm not going to belabor the point. It really is about Christendom. And if that initially turns you off, you're not going to probably be persuaded on this. Enough of that. Let's get to the pros. Okay. I never had played a White Dog game before. And I have got to give it up to them for their plucky small publisher that's put maximum effort into the components that you receive when you get this box. The artwork is just, I love it. The artwork is evocative. Even the chits, everything else, it all feels evocative of an apostolic age and growing and stuff. The provided sheets are fine. They do the job. They're great. They're fine. I have no complaint about them. They are functional and they are serviceable. This is probably one of the first games of the thousands that I own. I keep saying that, but like my wife would not consider that a wonderful thing. That I would love to just beef up. I actually think I would make a custom map for this. I would make little figurines for this. I'd love to have little figurines. I could do that. You could make it an elaborate affair, and I think I probably am going to do that just because of how much I've really enjoyed this game, and I don't see it really dissipating in a while. I'm going to keep this game probably forever. That aside, the other thing, though, is do not rob yourself of reading the manual. If you get it, you will be delighted. It is not just a manual. It's really an outpouring of expertise on the subject matter as well as the manual. So not only is it well organized and, you've got index numbers and everything, cross-referencing is fantastic, but it really is not just that. It puts, the manual not only gives you those details, it puts names and faces and context and even anecdotes into the timeline that really bring it alive, the timeline of Christian history. It's not to be missed. And the other thing is I love it when a game states a rule or has some sort of exception to the rule or something, and it's not something that might be instantly clear as a mainline rule, like, hey, roll your dice, that's clear, but hey, if this particular tile is in this particular spot, you get this minus bonus. And I'm like, if you're not familiar with that topic, you'd be like, I'm not sure what it does. This game, in lots of places, the manual will stop, it will give you the rule, it will explain why the rule exists, what it represents, and how you as a player should approach it. So many manuals miss this opportunity to really teach and explain in a way that in that short verbiage, I now know why, how, what, everything I need to know about something I had no information of. An example would be the Isis tiles, and there are Isis chits of the Temple of Isis, and they give you a special bonus of conversion, which might seem odd to you, but then it explains why that particular agent, that manifest, it was kind of a siren, or a little bit of a heads up that people that have the Temple of Isis area are a little more receptive. And so that's where it comes into play. That is just so important, and it's something that I think you're going to find a lot of in this game. It's a testament to explaining Christian history without the Christianese, which some Christians might know what I mean when I say that. Sola Gema, it's great. Well, it's not a short game. To see the proper trade-offs being made in game design such that you can play 27 distinct turns and feel that you got to see the panorama of Christian history without trudging through marshes of minutia. It's a masterful feat to be able to take that and balance that all in a way that I feel makes the game the perfect time and the perfect amount of time and just enough detail and not too much detail. Hard thing to do. I love the timeline. I love the progression of the game as you go through these 27 turns. I'm a big fan of, I'm a video game developer, so one of the things I love is video games. Duh. I'm a big Civilization fan, Age of Empires fan. When you play those games, you start off small. You start off with a village. You start off with a worker. You start off with a little plot of land, and then over time, you're going to evolve, expand your tactics, and experience more and more advanced challenges in that regard technologically and stuff. This is thematic Christianity's version of a Civilization type experience, which is no small praise from me. You start off with your apostles. They're forging their way out, and then historical conflicts arrive, shaping and morphing the cause. Events are woven in turn after turn that shape the entire known world, but not so rigidly that you're just on rails. By the time you're done, you're going to look back at your first turn or two, and you're going to think that life was simple and the world less undone. This is clearly a labor of educated love. Looking at the hall of heroes, of people who contributed and helped craft this game, they come from all walks, they come from all understandings and belief systems or not. It's like someone was just dying to pour all their hard-fought knowledge over the years and their expertise and observation into this, and it shows in both overt and subtle ways. Now, how should different audiences approach this? I was trying to think of that because I'm going to be, whenever someone says, what's a great game based on, are there any great games on Christianity? That was the original question. Now there are more, so it's more easy to explain. But, who is this best for, or what audience do I think would benefit from this greatly? If you don't care about the theme and it's infuriating to even think about, not for you, no problem. Go with God. We're cool with that. If you are, say, an intellectual type who just wants an engrossing, well-balanced simulation of the journey of Christendom's first 1,500 years, yes, this is up your alley. If you're a board gamer, just flat out a board gamer of any denomination or not, that wants a solid, well-paced, well-balanced, thoughtful game about a period of history wherein Christianity arose and navigated, again, it's for you. Christians who know a lot of history and want to experience in a way that hundreds of sometimes dry books can often set the context for, this is, well, that's me, and B, this game is for me. If you have Christians who know a little of Christian history, but they'd like to know more, this is probably for you, with the understanding that, again, this is not a casual game. You're not going to bring it out at bunko night and say, anybody want to play? Oh, never mind, it's one player. No, it takes some time. I wish, this is where, and again, I apologize that I don't have enough, cinematic guffaw to be able to do a full playthrough. Someone should. Maybe I do it over a series, like 27 videos. Anyway, then it's probably for you. And then finally, there are the segment of Christians who don't have a clue about the roots of Christianity. I love you all. You're all my friends, and you're fine with not knowing that more. And this probably is a little bit too much for you. That said, I mean, well, let's get into my final thoughts. The mission is basically a seminary in a box for some of us, and that's okay. I'm stretching the truth, but it's really. It's an amazing achievement from the perspective of a of a Christian, I am encouraged with the trajectory of Christian-themed games lately. We had our Trivial Pursuit Christian Edition and our Monopoly Bible Edition and Bible Trivia, Bible Candyland. I mean, seriously, just stop. Jesus is not your homeboy. But over time, in the last few years, we're starting to see a more mature game, a good game-focused trajectory of games with a Christian theme that I've found to be delightful. There's, Disciple Detective is just coming out. That'll ship next week. Commissioned, Kings of Israel, Wisdom of Solomon, Deliverance. There's a lot of games coming out with a Christian theme. This is a giant leap in both complexity and in detail and immersion for the genre. This is way up and beyond some of the more simple fare, even the really good stuff of late. It's a sterling achievement. Now, from the perspective of a gamer, I'm equally excited to be able to tell you that this is also a monumental achievement in gaming that I have waited many years to see. It brings together the perfect balance of Christian history, like a highlight reel that covers large swaths of time, but without abstracting them so far that each era loses its unique grasp and impact on the larger story. I highly recommend it as a gamer of faith, and if you have any interest in the subject at all, you won't find a better fun-filled summary of the topic. Play it. You have my permission. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time on Harebrained Games.